Okay, roll. Okay, Paul, first question for you. What generation are you of the family?
Well, my grandfather, my dad, I'm the third.
Third generation. What was it like, if you guys could talk about what it was like to grow up in the store, and maybe you could tell them a little bit about like how Holland used to be as opposed to how much it's changed in your lifetime.
Well, when I first started, I was very young. We lived above the store. The original store was Fabiano Soda Bar, where Gazelle Sports says. You look above the building, it says Fabiano's. My dad built that in 1919. And we lived above the store, so we couldn't escape to work. And when I was 10 years old, Pearl Harbor hit, and I had my hands in chocolate making peanut clusters. So I got a few years of experience in the place. And then in 1954, we started the peanut store. That's when I went with my dad. My two brothers had the original Fabiano Soda Bar. They bought it from my father in 52, and I was in the Army then. And then they closed it in 79. They didn't have any children, neither one. So they didn't have anybody to pass it down to like I had with my wife Esther. And then my kids are doing a very great job. Plus my two my granddaughters here are a big asset to the peanut store. So they're showing me tricks I never knew.
When did the soda fountain end of the business come to a halt?
In 1979.
You guys talk about the rationale behind that and when you decided to transition?
Well, we had years ago, my father and his father had a wholesale fruits and veggies where they used to get carload of bananas in. When you get carload of bananas, the bananas are pitch green. And you put them in, they had 3 banana rooms in the basement with portable gas heaters. If you want to ripen bananas, you turn up the heat. If you want to hold them back, you turn down the heat. And the 3rd room was for the green bananas. You kept them green for a while until you got rid of the ripe bananas, and then you turned the heat up on them so you could ripen them. My dad used to pedal with his horse and buggy before the trucks came into existence. He used to get up 3 o'clock in the morning and go to Fenville and deliver bananas. So each generation got it easier. I had it easier than my father. I think my kids had it easier than myself. My 2 granddaughters can answer the question if they had it easier than their mothers and aunts and uncles.
So there were 2 stores for a while, right, Grandpa?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So there was the soda bar, and then you opened the Holland Peanut store. So how long were there 2 stores?
Well, we opened the peanut store on River Avenue in 1954. So 54 to 79 is what, 20 some odd years?
Sure.
And then the peanut store, in 1960, we moved the peanut store to 32 East 8th Street, west of the bank. And then in 1972, we moved to where we are now because the bank wanted our property, so we we traded buildings with X amount of dollars for remodeling. It was a good move. We gained 30 more feet of building and 2 apartments upstairs instead of 1. Backdoor entrance, which we were kind of blocked off in the old place by Dykstra Funeral Home, was right behind us. We didn't have any parking right behind us. So it worked out well. My wife had a big part in the success of the peanut store. She was a busy young gal.
Yeah.
She worked in the store, plus raising a family. So the credit goes to her as well as me and the kids.
And you would never know it. You know, Grandma was so dedicated at home, you know, and she was such a, you know, a great, strong mother, and she kept the house so, like, you know, it was just, she was never not busy, you know? I just remember her always working really hard at whatever she did. And that was in the store when you guys decided, and then out of the store, you know, when your children needed you guys and such. So it was an awesome thing for us to see.
She was always behind the scenes, never wanting much of the credit for anything, but she was always right there amongst it all.
Grandma was the happiest when she was cooking for all the family.
Sure.
For Christmas Eve, everybody came over for Easter, for Thanksgiving, and when she had her health, she was the chief cook. I was the gopher.
That plays right into my memories of Christmas Eve, where we would all be down at the store from the time we opened, and we would close a little bit early, so we were all down there helping out, but Grandma was, you know, slaving away over a hot stove, getting ready for, you know, us to all come over and have a delicious feast. So while we were down there, she was still working behind the scenes, and so, yeah.
When my son Tom joined me in January of '81 full time, excuse me, I asked my wife if she wanted to go to Florida during the winter for a couple of weeks, and she says, "Why? All my kids and grandkids are in Holland. I don't want to go to Florida."
Yeah, she was definitely the core, you know, that kept us really close. And, you know, I know for myself and Sammy, I'm sure, you know, we hope to create what Grandma created for us.
Paul, could you talk about when you guys kind of took the reins and, you know, opened up your store? It was in the family already, but when it became yours and Esther's, was that a nervous time? Was that excitement? How was
that? Excuse me. Well, yes, it was. I got back from the Army in October of '53, and then we started the peanut store in April of '54. It was my father and myself first, and then I got married in '55, and then Esther was a big help in running the store. And then once the children start coming, she was a busy little gal, helping me in the store and plus raising a family. And when the kids got, you know, in grade school, participated in band, sports, Dutch dance in high school. Tom participated in basketball and tennis. Mary was a cheerleader. Paula was in track. Celeste was in gymnastics. She had to be a chauffeur on top of all her dual duties. she never complained. She always, during tulip time, she worked in a store. At the end of the parade, she used to, especially during the kids' parade on Thursdays, used to run to Collins Park and pick up the kids and bring them back to the store. Work until and she went home and made dinner for the family. Like I say, I'm lucky she didn't divorce me.
Grandpa, was it particularly challenging to have like two family businesses open at the same time?
Well, when we opened it, they didn't have the mall. They didn't have the big box stores on the north side. Everything was downtown. Even all your doctor's offices was above the retail stores. Like where Crane's is now was more shoe stores. That's where Esther and I first lived when after we were married. And then right across the street on the corner was Woolworth, and above Woolworth was Dr. Cook, her genealogist, and everything was downtown. Then they started to spread out and build their own little buildings and offices, but it was you might say friendly competitors. We did a lot of buying together, my brothers and I. And if I didn't have it, I sent them to my brothers, and if they didn't have it, they sent them to me. So, I mean, it was no animosity towards each other. We were still one big, loving Italian family.
And Grandpa, that's why you went into more of candy and nuts, because they were operating as the ice cream bar, right? So you didn't want to directly compete. You wanted to kind of expand on what was already created.
Well, they had some candy and nuts.
Okay.
Not as much as the peanut store, because we didn't have, like you say, the soda bar.
Sure.
They made their own ice cream. And they had the booths and the tables and chairs and soda bar. Mm-hmm. They, in 1936, my dad was the first retail store in Holland to air condition. And from what he tells me, it paid huge dividends, because naturally you want to stay cool and eat your sodas and sundaes and Coca-Colas, and then from there he bought his own ice cream machine, made his own ice cream. They used to make a lot of candy we first made some candy when we started the peanut store, but before the peanut store came in existence, they made a lot of candy. Peanut brittle, hard candy, anise squares, butterscotch squares, candy canes. Candy canes was an art in itself. Seafoam. They made their own chocolate syrup for chocolate sundaes, the bittersweet topping, marshmallow. They made their own regular syrup. Of course, that was nothing but sugar and water. And then to make your extract, lime and lemon and all the different flavors, you fill a gallon jar with regular syrup, and you put your flavoring, and that would color it and flavor it. We made a lot of our own, more so then than now. Now we don't do half as much as homemade stuff. But times change. My dad had I'm the last of 11 children. He had a lot of help from his kids when we got older. Of course, the girls got married and some moved away. But my brother Joe, when he got married in the early 40s, took over the wholesale fruits and veggies business. So that relieved my dad of a lot of responsibility and work.
Could we talk a little bit about the, and I'm sorry, the mug's just making a little bit of a sound, so if we could.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right, I understand, I'm a fidgety guy. Just the relationship with the customers, I listened to your presentation you did with the museum a few years back, and you were talking about how special it was to see Hope students you knew and then see them return with their own families, and you've probably gotten to see a lot of people as kids and with their own kids, and I was hoping you guys could talk about that a little bit.
Well, one thing about a small family business, you either work it yourself or you close the door. You can't afford to have a manager and you're on the golf course. I put in some long hours in my day and I don't regret it. I made a lot of good friends. My customers turned out to be a lot of my good friends. Hope college students, you know, after coming in for 4 years, you get to know them. And then what I was happy about, after 20, 25 years, they would stop in and say hello when they were bringing their kids to Hope. That was a nice feeling. Another thing I enjoyed was Hope's homecoming weekend. A lot of ex-students and student athletes used to stop in and say hello to my wife and I. You know, one young man, excuse me, Warren Vanderhill, he came in and I looked at him and I said, I know him, but I couldn't place him. And he's come up to me, he said, Paul Fabiano? I said, yes, sir. He's Warren Vanderhill. And Warren used to stop in when he was a student. Ed Sanders, a young man from Alabama, was running back for Hope. He used to stop in at least once a week for 4 years, buy a half a pound of chocolate peanuts. And then upon graduation, he stopped in to say goodbye. And I gave him a bag of chocolate peanuts. It must have been about 1.5 pounds. You think I gave the kid $100? He was so thrilled, give me a big hug. And, you know, little things like that don't seem too much to people, but to me they were big. Yeah, and and Hope College is a big asset to Holland, big asset to downtown. They're right a block or two away. We do a lot of business with the Hope students, the Hope faculty, the Hope staff, the people that work there. I don't know, I would say at least 1,000 people work for Hope. Well, that's a big asset to the downtown. And some say Hope, for a college to be that close to downtown, is a bigger asset than a corporation, which I have to agree. Not that I'm against corporation, don't get me wrong, but the more people that worked in Holland, the more they're going to spend. And, you know, we were fortunate to have Holland support us, our loyal customers. That's why we've been in business for over 115 years. But in return, we gave our customers good service, good product, fair price, and the friendship that goes with it. In a small business, you have to sell yourself besides your product. If you're going to treat your customers mean, or I don't mean, but not as nice as you should be, they're not coming back. So I think we have proved ourselves. And
Grandpa, that part came really natural to you, right? Like building the relationships with people and talking with them, and you seem just to naturally do that. Do you think that's something that you learned or something?
well, I always enjoyed people. You know, during school, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I was friends with a lot of my classmates and
Sure.
kept in touch with a few of them afterwards. And like I say, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I think I had a decent personality.
Yeah.
And I think I sold myself to my customers.
I think that's one of my favorite things that people can come in the store and say is, oh, you know, I remember this store. I'm bringing my children into this store. You know, how's Paul? You know, what's Paul up to? And I'm like, well, he's still comes down. He's still here. He's still dipping. And you know, people are like, well, leave him a note for me or leave him a message. And I just think that's a true testament to your character, Grandpa, that people are still come in and seek you out, and also people have a lot of options these days of where they could purchase their candy and their specialty items, and they come back and they still choose our store, but that's part of like your legacy that you
Well, I appreciate that, honey.
are leaving. So
And you've passed that on to, you know, your children and then in return to us. And personally, you know, I was able to take that and go into the business world and the corporate world and just really know how to talk to all people and relate well to others and build those relationships. So it's really something that's been beneficial for the store, but I think for all of our lives and all of the different paths that we were on prior to coming back to the store.
Yeah, that's a good point there. My dad always taught me, when you're in business, you don't talk religion, you don't talk politics. A lot of people in Holland, excuse me, try to talk religion, and I say, hold the phone. You go to your church, I go to mine, we still be friends. We don't talk religion. Same with politics. I voted Republican, I voted Democrat. I don't consider myself a staunch either one. I vote for the man, not the party.
or woman.
And a lot of people like to come in and some try to agitate you about politics, and I just tell them the same thing. You vote for who you want, I vote for who I want. We'll be friends. So,
So then that leaves a lot of debate for sports. Can you talk about the flags and, were you the one who started that tradition at the store?
no, my son did. We're big Notre Dame freaks. We started with Hope College. We love Hope. We support Hope. And we started with Notre Dame flag, Hope College flag, and the American flag. And then as our kids and grandkids went to college, one went to St. Mary's across the street from Notre Dame. One went to Ferris. And you went to Western Michigan. You went to Hope. And then it all snowballed from there. People come in and say, where's my flag? And we used to say, you bring it to me, we fly it. And that's how we didn't pay for any of the flags that are flying outside of the ones that I mentioned. And, excuse me. We got them all the way down the hallway there and all the way across the store. And
Now there's barely any room left.
yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. A lot of times people like to argue, especially in Holland where there's Hope And then there's Calvin. One time a man came in and Tom was waiting on him. And Tom said, "Can I do anything else for you?" "Yeah, take that Calvin flag down." "Pardon me?" "I'm serious, take it down." And Tom says, "You don't tell me what to do in my own store." He says, "There's a lot of 50% probably Christian Reformed people in this town. They make a living for me. If you want to give me about $5,000 a year, I'll take it down." And Tom says, "Listen, you're a Hope fan, I'm a Hope fan. I respect Calvin. I root for Calvin every time they don't play Hope, whether you like it or not." And Tom says, "That's my way of thinking, and I appreciate your business. I hope that you'll come back and see me, but if you don't, I can't do much about it." And he looked at Tom, he says, "You got a good attitude there." He says, "I'll be back." So it's just little things like that that add up and make things worthwhile being there.
And I think that's why people feel so comfortable in our store, is because we love everyone and anybody, and we create an atmosphere where everyone is welcome. And I believe that a lot of our loyal customers and friends and family know that, and that's why they feel so comfortable and they feel so happy coming into the store, because we are accepting and appreciative of everybody.
Can we talk a little bit about 1988 with the emergence of the mall and the changing of the 8th Street, all that? That seems to be a significant year in the history of the store.
1988 was a big year. Big year as far as the mall and streetscape. It was a rough year as far as business goes, because downtown was all torn up. That's when they put snow melt in and change the pipes underneath the road. With snow melt, excuse me, you had to go through or streetscape, I should say, which snow melt was a part of. You had to go through the bitter to get to the sweet. A lot of people told us we should move to the mall. And thank God we didn't. And Mike Lozan wrote a book, A Vision on Main Street, and he asked my opinion on the future of downtown. I says, "We'll survive 88. And I'm quoted in his book as saying, "Don't hold any funerals for us yet." So, like I say, 88 was a rough year, but we survived. I always kid everybody, being a Notre Dame freak. Notre Dame won the national championship that year. That's about one of the best things about 88. But I don't mean to push Notre Dame down anybody's throats, but I always tell the Michigan State fans that when they play Notre Dame, I say, "I'm a big Michigan fan. I always hope you go 11-1. And most of them get a chuckle out of it. So that's, and then after 88, one guy told me, "You're going to have a rough time when the mall comes in." I said, "Well, that's not going to help any, but let me tell you one thing." I said, "After 2 years, there'll be 8 to 10 stores that will go out of business in the mall." "No way." Well, I didn't mean to be a prophet, but I think that was pretty close to that. There was a few stores that button up their front door and never open again after a couple years. One thing that killed the Howland Mall was the Rivertown Mall in Granville. It was only a 20-minute drive, and they had Macy's and they had big stores. They had big food court, and then that's what really killed the Howland Mall. Once that I forget what year, what do they call that, Granville Mall?
Rivertown.
Yeah, thank you. But that didn't help the Holland Mall at all.
Yeah, Rivertown's kind of in not the best shape now too. It seems like there's a lot of empty stores there, and now it's woodland again, and kind of goes in sight. Was there ever a point where you considered the mall, or did you know you wanted to stay put?
No, they approached us on it. We talked to them about it, but seemed like the terms were all in their favor, and we just said we'd take our chances with our one little store. And a lot of people told us we should expand to Saugatuck, to South Haven, here and there, and you can only spread yourself so far and so thin. And I'll never be another Kennedy or Rockefeller, but I took care of my family.
What would you say the most rewarding thing about your career at the peanut store has been?
Pardon me, Steve, say that again.
What's been the most rewarding aspect of the business?
Serving the public, making friends with the customers, years ago, my wife and I was at Russ's Easttown having breakfast on a Saturday morning. And across the aisle was the then president of Hope, Jim Boltman, and his wife, and the coach of football, Ray Smith, and his wife, Sue. We got to know the Smiths pretty good because our son Tom and their son Randy played #1 doubles on the tennis team. And on the way out, they stopped and talked, and Jim Boltman said, "How's Lefty?" Lefty meaning my granddaughter Samantha here, who played 4 years of tennis for Hope, plus 4 years for Holland High. She was #1 3 years at Hope, undefeated in league play in her senior year, and was the league's most valuable. So we filled him in that she was married, living in Chicago, and being a certified tennis pro, was teaching tennis at the downtown Chicago Club of Tennis. And then Jim says, "Before I go, I got a cute little story for you, Paul. Years ago, Hope held a conference of the Midwest Division III president of colleges at Hope, from Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. During one of the sessions, he said, a gentleman from Indiana says, I got a question for you, Jim. Excuse me. Jim said, I thought he wanted to ask a question about the conference or academic. I said, yes, sir. What's the question? Is the peanut store still in the business? And Jim says, oh, yeah, it's alive and well. He said, well, good. He said, I have to stop there before I go back. So that fellow had been in the store before, and we had to make a halfway decent impression on him to ask that question. That's what makes us feel good. Another gentleman I know delivered cars for Crown Motors. He had to bring a Cadillac to Ohio. And he told me as I went in the showroom, and the guy's going to help you. I said, well, I'm from Holland, Michigan. I got a Cadillac from Crown Motors. I'm delivering it. You're from where? He's from Holland, Michigan. No, he says, Holland, Michigan, home of the Holland Peanut Store. So this was in Ohio. So he must have been in our store before. And just little things like that is rewarding to our long hours and hard work and building up a relationship with everybody and anybody. During tulip time, we get to meet a lot of great people. And they ask, what is this program about? What is that program about? I said, I don't know. You don't know? How long you been here? At the time, I said, about 65 years. You never been to a program on, I said, ma'am, during tulip time, I'm here from 9 to 9. I haven't got time to go to these programs. And they thought it was kind of weird that I didn't take off from my store to go to, because tulip time brought in a lot of nice programs and people, a lot of good shows. But tulip time has been great for Holland. Of course, last year we didn't have it. This year it's going to be scaled down quite a bit. But it put Holland, Michigan on the map, so to speak.
What's it been like, this will be my last question, but what's it been like to watch Holland grow? Can you describe what it was, what it looked like when you were young and to see where it is today?
Excuse me. Well, when I was real young, naturally we lived upstairs, and my dad ran the store with his children. My mother, when she was first married, had worked in the store and raised her family. When my dad first started back in, well, he came to this country in 1902 to Holland, Michigan. He was in Pittsburgh for a year or so. Then he came to Holland in 1902. He was 12 years old, and then he worked with his dad. And then in the 19-teens, he bought his father out. His father moved to Rochester, and my dad took over the store. And he went to a merchant's meeting one time back in the 1919, or earlier than that probably, in 1915. And all of a sudden they started the meeting, and it was all in Dutch. And my dad, sir, he says, this is America. He says, I'm Italian, and I'm proud of it. I don't speak Dutch. I know a few words that I picked up during my time in Holland here. But either you talk English or I'm leaving. And I guess a few of the people were quite stunned that my dad had enough nerve to stand up and speak for himself. And ever since then, I think they held their meetings in English. Yeah, it's a great relationship. Like I'm a member of the Elks, and I was up to the Elks one time, and Christian High was playing basketball. They had it on the radio, and I was rooting for Christian High. One guy said, "You're rooting for Christian High? Why?" I said, "Oh, just because they make me a living." I said, "You realize that half of the Holland population is Christian Reform. Quite a few is Reform, and I'm Catholic. We got a small piece of the pie, but I'm proud of my Catholic religion. But the Christian Reform, you take the Christian Reform people out of Holland, what do you got? You don't have much left." I always, this is a kind of a funny story. One time one of my better customers, when my son was playing basketball for Holland High, she said, "You going to the game tonight?" I said, "Oh, yeah." She said, "Who are you going to root for?" I said, "Barb, my son plays for Holland High. Who do you think I'm going to root for?" "Well, my kids go to Christian High. I'm a good customer of yours." I said, "Time out." I said, "If you're going to hold that against me, I appreciate your business, but if you never come back in the store again, we'll still be friends. But I'm still going to root for Holland High. When Christian plays next week, I'll root for Christian against Grand Rapids schools or somebody else. But don't hold that against me, rooting for Holland High when they play Christian." So she came back and said I was out of line. I said, "Well, I think you were." But things like that, you run into when I was growing up, when I was old enough to date, and when I was in high school, and when I got back from the Army. A few girls that I asked out, they came back and said, I can't go out with you. I said, oh, any reason? Well, my folks don't want me to go with a Catholic and an Italian. I said, okay, we're still friends. She says, oh yeah. So you ran into some differences like that, but it's not as bad as it is now as it was then. And but I still love Holland, and I still love the people.
Was being Italian difficult for your grandfather? Because he was kind of a trailblazer, right?
Oh yeah, they were open on Sundays, and a lot of people held that against them. And a lot of people didn't like to spend money on Sunday. They used to come in on Saturday night, pay for a quart of ice cream or a pound of peanuts or something, and come on Sunday to pick it up. It was already paid for. They weren't spending money on Sunday, but they were picking up their product. I mean, it blew my mind, but I didn't say much because that's when I was, say, 13 or 14 years old, working in the soda bar then, when I was still in, well, probably in high school, 9th grade. But that always kind of, what's the difference about paying for it on Sunday or picking it up on Sunday? That's before the freezers were big. But to each his own. We took their money and put it in a bag, put it in the freezer, and be ready for you tomorrow when you come. I'm John Smith. I paid for a quart of ice cream. There you go, sir. Thank you. Come again.
So even though people disagreed with it, they often would reap the benefit of the family being open on Sunday because they were able to get their fresh items.
True.
Yeah, so I'm sure that was
you know.
a challenge, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's but we made it through. We lived through it. We just, in business, you just had to turn the other cheek.
Is there anything anybody wanted to ask that I didn't?
I would love to know what Esther made for Christmas Eve dinner. What was the theme?
What Grandma made for Christmas Eve dinner. What was our tradition?
Pasta. Pasta, meatballs, ribs in the sauce, beans, salad. You had your desserts, pies and cakes. Grandma made them all. You know, she, and naturally Thanksgiving, she made her turkey and stuffing, and mashed potatoes and gravy and sweet potatoes. And you didn't go hungry when my wife cooked.
Oh,
And
zucchini
that-
patty.
True to my mother and her mother. Her mother, God bless her, my mother-in-law was a great lady. She loved to cook too, and Esther inherited from her.
That's pretty neat to grow up around the store and then see it go on as long as it did. Are you kind of awestruck that it's had this longevity?
Well, with a lot of people going out of business, you know, a lot of people downtown Holland, I've seen a lot of changes. Steckety's, Lock and Ruggers, DeMay's. I can name a whole bunch of stores that went out. And in a way, I'm surprised. In a way, I'm fortunate that we're still here. And thanks to the people of Holland, that's who I have to credit their success to. Is us to a certain point, but my loyal customers have kept us in business.
Awesome. And Wayne? All right. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a couple questions because I think in some of the notes I was reading about, and you guys were talking about your Catholic faith, and when your family came here, there wasn't a place to worship, and so you guys were pretty integral in helping St. Francis de Sales church start. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that was like for your family to be a part of that?
Did you hear that okay? She wants to know a little bit about like the start of the mission church and our family's like role in
Oh.
the Catholic Church in St. Francis and the growth of that.
Well, of course, that's before my time, but from what I understand and read, Holland was a mission. The priest from Grand Rapids used to come in on Sundays and say Mass. There was a little chapel on 20th and Harrison where they had a little chapel, and whole gully, I don't know how many families there was to start with, maybe 15, 20 at first, and then it kind of grew. My folks were one of the original ones, so to speak. The Donleys and the Morlocks and back in well, what was it? Probably 1920 or someplace in that area, where they built their first church and school on Maple Avenue between 12th and 13th. It was a four classroom school. We had first and second in one room, third and fourth, fifth and sixth, and seventh and eighth. In fact, we named our first child, Celeste, after my 7th and 8th grade teacher at St. Francis, Sister Mary Celeste. She was a beautiful person. Of course, I have a soft spot in my heart for nuns because I had a sister who was a nun. So I got to meet a lot of nuns and know them. And they were all beautiful people. And then to get to the church, you had to go down the school hallway, and then here's where the classrooms, and then here's where the church, and then you go down the hallway to get to the church. That was the first church. I remember going to first and second grade, and then going to Mass there. Back in, I was born in 31. So 37 and 38, I was in the first and second grade. And then they added on to the school to the west of the church. And then they had more kids, more classrooms. Got to be, one room was first grade and so forth and so on. Second grade, they got to be their own, instead of having 2 grades in one room, they had 1 grade. And then after a while, back in, well, let's see, when was it? Probably in the early 40s when I was in grade school, when they redid the church. They had their own entrance from the 13th Street. And I was an altar boy. Father Westorp was my idol. He was there. And Well, then from there, they've more or less built a new church on, the entrance was on 12th and Maple. That's back in '97, we had the fire there. So we used to, Third Reform was very gracious in offering us their home for our services. The chapel at Hope College, they were, God bless them, they were great. We held our Sunday masses there until we could rebuild to what we have today.
And Grandpa, St. Francis was the first Catholic church in Holland, right? The first
Oh,
Catholic
yeah.
church built?
Oh yeah, Our Lady of Ligg didn't come until probably the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to be too big for one parish.
I see.
And I was good friends with the priest from the north side also. And so it was two churches that took a lot of good people away from St. Francis.
Is there anything we didn't ask that you would like to add? Was there anything you were hoping to say that didn't get prompted?
I don't know, you kids have anything to, you want me to comment on that before you were born?
I don't think so. I think it will be nice to have everybody else out here
Yeah.
too. Then we'll
Yeah,
get, I'm
there's some
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
lots of things rolling.
So can we